Welcome to the Telltales channel.
My sister looked at me and said, "You're not invited to Christmas in Hawaii." My parents bowed their heads. And her husband almost smiled like he'd been waiting years for this exact moment, to see me shrink. But I didn't. I sat there feeling something in me pull tight like a wire. So I stood up and told her and her husband to get out of my house. I don't think I'll ever forget how quiet it got after she said it. The heater clicked off. Someone's fork clinked on a plate. My dad looked down at his hands. My mom acted like she needed to check something on her phone. And across from me, Lindsay just sat there smug. Like what she'd said was normal. Ryan didn't even look surprised. He leaned back in his chair like he'd been waiting to watch this exact moment unfold. Like it was dessert after a long, slow meal. "You're not invited to Christmas in Hawaii." That's what she'd said. To me. In my house. It wasn't even their house. They were living in my guest room. For free. Showering in my bathroom. Using my kitchen. Half-eating my groceries, then leaving condescending little notes taped to their yogurt and oat milk in the fridge. "Don't touch. Property of L&R." Like they were doing me a favor by letting me know which overpriced organic crap I was allowed to eat in my own damn house. Started off simple enough. Last December, Ryan lost his job. Some kind of corporate restructuring, apparently. They asked to stay here for a month or two while they figured things out. I said yes. I was raised not to turn family away. At first, I genuinely wanted to help. I thought, okay, they'll get back on their feet, maybe pitch in for groceries. But they didn't. They didn't even pretend to. They ordered and almost every day filled up half the fridge with their own food, and told me they were trying to keep their routine. Which apparently meant treating my house like a free Airbnb with a cleaning fairy and no checkout date. I noticed small things. How they never replaced the burrito when it was empty. How Lindsay started leaving her laundry in the dryer for days. How Ryan complained about the noise from the neighbor's dog, like he wasn't lucky just to have a roof. And every time they talked about their future, it was some vague plan involving passive income and digital opportunities. Months passed. I didn't push. I should have. But I didn't. Then that night they dropped the bomb. Christmas was supposed to be a family thing. We do 1 year here, 1 year somewhere warm. This year Hawaii. Flights were booked, hotel rooms reserved. I was expecting to hear about itineraries and maybe pick excursions. Instead, Lindsay looked at me and said it straight. "You're not coming. Just me. Not them. Not our parents. Just me." Ryan didn't say a word. Just watched. Like he was waiting to see if I'd break. I didn't. I sat back in my chair. I could feel my heart thudding, not fast, just sharp. Like every beat was delivering the same message. Enough. I looked around the table. My parents looked guilty, uncomfortable. They always avoided conflict. But in that moment, their silence told me more than words ever could. They knew. They'd known about the trip. They just hadn't said anything. I stood up. Nobody moved. I walked to the kitchen, filled a glass of water and came back. Still quiet. Then I said it. "I want you out." Lindsay blinked. I said it again. This time slower. "I want you and Ryan out of my house. You've got 1 week." Ryan's mouth opened like he might argue. But I kept going. No more discussions. No more guilt trips. No more Sunday dinners. I'm done. They didn't leave that night. But the spell was broken. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of boxes being dragged across the hallway. Lindsay avoided me. Ryan kept trying to act casual, like this wasn't humiliating. They had no plan. That much was clear. I knew they'd try to milk a few more weeks out of my parents next. That was inevitable. What I didn't expect was how low Lindsay would go before she left. And I wasn't ready for what she'd break, on purpose, just to make sure I remembered her. Ryan carried his boxes like he was being filmed. Always standing up straighter than usual. Always glancing to make sure I noticed how organized they were. He even said something about trying to make the transition easy, like I hadn't been feeding and housing them for nearly a year while they bought matching robes and subscription smoothies. They didn't have a plan. I knew it. They pretended they did. Lots of phrases like short-term rental and temporary pivot and the classic. "We're exploring options." But they weren't. They were doing what they always did, waiting for someone else to carry the weight while they acted like victims of bad timing. And still I helped them. I carried Lindsay's books down to the car. I gave them clean boxes from the garage. When she asked if she could leave a few things in the attic, just for a bit, I didn't even answer. I just opened the door and let her see the empty space. He got the message. I'd never seen her pack so slowly. She sat in the guest room for hours, pretending to sort through clothes like she was moving across the world, not 20 minutes down the freeway to our parents' house. I think part of her still thought I was bluffing. That I'd cave. That I'd say she could stay until after the holidays. She kept bringing up Hawaii like it was still going to happen. For her. Then the thing with the groceries. It was the day before they left. I'd gone to put away some eggs and noticed a new sticky note on the fridge. It was on a carton of oat milk. In all caps, "Do not touch. Personal purchase." I stood there staring at it for a long time. Because that oat milk was mine. I'd bought it. I'd driven to the store, paid for it, and brought it home. It had a tiny black marker K on the cap. My usual way of telling my things apart. She'd literally taken my groceries and tried to claim them. I didn't even confront her. I just peeled the note off, threw it in the trash, and poured the oat milk down the sink in front of her. She didn't say a word. The next day I came home from work and immediately knew something was wrong. The air smelled humid. Like drywall and heat. I went upstairs and found water trickling out from under the guest room door. I opened it. It was flooded. The bathroom sink was running. The drain had been stuffed with a towel. Water had spilled out, soaked the floor, and seeped into the hallway. My rug was ruined. The wood under the door was already buckling. He didn't forget. He did that. It was a quiet tantrum. A final little act of destruction. Something to leave behind so I'd feel her after she was gone. When I confronted her, she didn't even lie. She just shrugged and said she might have left the sink on. Then she walked out of the room. That night, she and Ryan moved the rest of their stuff out. Took my extra set of towels. Left the guest bathroom a mess. Left the freezer door cracked open too. Probably hoping I wouldn't notice until everything was spoiled. They drove to my parents' house like they were returning from war. My parents called me around 10. Told me Lindsay was feeling very attacked, and that they just needed a little time to regroup. Maybe until February. I could hear Ryan in the background talking about starting a podcast. I was too tired to argue. I said I hoped they liked oat milk. My dad didn't get the joke. And just like that they were gone. Or so I thought. Because 2 weeks later my mom started calling me every other night. And she didn't call to say thank you. She called to vent. It started with a quick call from my mom one Thursday night. She said it was just to say hi. Within 5 minutes she was telling me Lindsay had turned the entire guest room upside down because she couldn't sleep with the bed facing that way. My mom had walked in to find the mattress pushed against the wall, the dresser flipped sideways, and her favorite lamp, an antique from her mother, stuffed under a pile of yoga towels like it was trash. Ryan apparently had taken over the den. Not just using it. He'd moved in. Brought in a mini fridge from the garage, rearranged the furniture and put up blackout curtains. He told my dad it was now his creative workspace. When asked what exactly he was working on, he muttered something about long-form content and brand alignment. He spends his days watching YouTube tutorials and taking breaks every 30 minutes to manage his nervous system. They'd been there 12 days. By the third call I knew I was in trouble. Not from Lindsay. From my parents. Because every call turned into the same thing. A long, anxious download session where they told me everything that had gone wrong in the house since Lindsay and Ryan arrived, but ended with some kind of excuse. They're just under pressure. Ryan's trying in his own way. Lindsay's probably embarrassed. No one mentioned the Hawaii invite. Or the flooded guest room. Or the fact that my house still smelled faintly of mildew even after the contractor dried everything out. They were so deep in denial I started keeping notes after each call. Not because I needed to remember, but because I could see where it was all heading and I wanted to be ready when they hit the wall. Week 2, Ryan started using my dad's car regularly. Just took the keys one afternoon. Said it made more sense because they didn't really need 2 vehicles. My dad asked where he was going. Networking lunch. He came back with a Jamba Juice and 3 packages from Amazon. Week 3, my mom walked into her kitchen and found Lindsay had reorganized the spice cabinet. She threw out expired things including saffron from their anniversary trip to Spain. When asked why, Lindsay shrugged and said they needed to simplify. By the end of that week, my dad was brushing his teeth in the laundry room because Lindsay said the master bath had the best lighting for her skincare routine. She had spread her serums and creams across both sinks, labeled them in clear bins and told my mom not to touch anything. Ryan unplugged their toaster and replaced it with his air fryer. One night around 11 p.m. my mom called and whispered from the back porch. Lindsay had just accused her of micromanaging the vibe of the house. The vibe of the house. And still, every time I tried to suggest it was time to set some boundaries, my mom made excuses. I knew she was embarrassed. That maybe deep down she understood she'd enabled all of it. But she still wasn't ready to admit how badly it was going. My dad cracked first. It was 3.5 weeks in. He called me from the garage. He'd set up a chair and a mini fan and said he just needed 10 minutes of quiet every day after dinner. He said, "I thought you were being dramatic. I didn't get it, but now I do. And it's worse than you described." I could hear the treadmill in the background. Lindsay had set it up in the dining room. She said she couldn't prioritize her health if they didn't make space for her to thrive. She made my parents move their china cabinet into the hallway. The only reason my mom let it happen was because Lindsay said they'd only be there until mid-February. I asked where she got that date. She just said it, like it was already decided. It wasn't. And that's when I knew, again, they weren't leaving on their own. But this time I wasn't going to wait for the damage. This time I wasn't just kicking them out of my house. I was going to get them out of my parents' house too. And they were going to remember it. I didn't warn them. I got in my car early Saturday morning, drove to my parents' house and rang the doorbell like a guest. I wasn't. Not anymore. I had to stop being the daughter who swallowed everything, the sister who tolerated, the woman who cleaned up after everyone else's mess. My dad opened the door like he'd been waiting for someone to rescue him. He looked thinner. Tired. The kind of tired that settles into your bones. He stepped aside without a word. The house smelled like incense and burnt eggs. I stepped in and nearly tripped over a pile of shoes. 9 pairs at least. All Lindsay's. A sandal balanced on a slipper, boots tossed under a blanket. One of the shoeboxes still had the receipt in it, bought last week. So much for being broke. Ryan was asleep on the couch, mouth open, phone on his chest. A video was playing on loop about becoming your own boss in 90 days. He didn't wake up. I found my mom in the kitchen stirring something she clearly didn't want to eat. Her eyes darted to the stairs. She didn't ask why I was there. I said, "Where's Lindsay?" He just pointed up. I went straight to the master bathroom. Didn't knock. Didn't care. Lindsay was standing at the counter in my mom's silk robe, plucking her eyebrows and eating from a container of Greek yogurt. She looked at me like I was an intruder. I told her she had 24 hours to pack her things and get out. She smirked. Of where exactly? Here. She turned fully, leaned on the counter. You don't live here. I said, no, but I'm the only reason you were able to stay here this long. And I'm done pretending you didn't break everything you touched. That's when she dropped it. Out of nowhere. I'm pregnant. I stared at her. Not because I believed her, but because of how casually she said it, like she was ordering food. I didn't respond. I just walked back downstairs. A minute later she came thundering down after me, calling out to my mom and dad like she'd been attacked. She just barged into the bathroom and started threatening me. My mom looked confused. My dad didn't say anything. Ryan was now sitting up, rubbing his face like he'd just returned from war. She said, "We have to leave." Can you believe that? Lindsay kept going. And I told her I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. And this is how she treats me. Ryan's head snapped toward her. Wait, what? He said it loud. Too loud. The room dropped into silence. I could see Lindsay's face change. It only took a second, but I caught it. The flicker of panic. Then she said, "We just found out. I was going to tell you tonight." Ryan stood up. We. She didn't answer. My mom looked like she might faint. My dad leaned against the wall. I just stood there watching the entire scene burn down from the inside. I didn't let it go on. I said the same thing loud enough for all of them to hear. You're leaving tomorrow. Ryan started protesting, mumbling something about a plan in motion. I cut him off. I told them they could either pack and leave, or I'd have a locksmith there Monday morning. That was their choice. I looked directly at my mom. You don't have to say it, but you know it's time. She didn't respond. But she didn't defend them either. Ryan tried to turn it around, asking where they were supposed to go. I told him they could rent a motel or go live in their car, or stay with one of those brand partners he kept talking about. Not my problem anymore. And then Lindsay snapped. I'd been waiting for it. She stormed back upstairs and started yelling. I heard drawers slamming. Something cracked. Then she shouted down the stairs, "You never loved me anyway. This family is disgusting." They left the next afternoon. No hug. No thanks. No apology. I watched them load their things into their SUV like they were being evacuated from a disaster they'd created. Ryan took one last selfie in the driveway, I swear to God, and said they were entering their nomadic chapter. That night I helped my mom clean out the kitchen. She didn't talk much. The next morning she opened a cabinet and froze. The wedding album was gone. My mom's entire photo history, her dress, the vows, the reception just vanished. We searched everywhere. It wasn't a mistake. That evening I found a cardboard box on my front porch. No note on the outside. Just my name written in black marker. Inside was the album. And taped to the last page was a wrinkled post-it note. You're lucky I'm not the type to hold a grudge. And below that, a smiley face. She wanted me to know she'd taken it, that she still had power. I sat on my porch for a long time holding that box. And that's when I knew she was still going to haunt this family, unless I made sure she couldn't. At first I thought it was finally over. Lindsay and Ryan disappeared. No calls. No texts. No updates. It was almost like the mess had picked itself up and wandered off. The house was peaceful. My parents sounded lighter. I told myself they must have figured something out. Maybe moved in with one of Ryan's random podcast buddies. Maybe found a short-term rental. But 2 weeks later the phone rang. It was my mom and she didn't even bother with small talk. She came back. Lindsay. Not permanently, just casually. She'd stopped by, she said, because she left some shoes. Then she came back the next day to grab a package. Then the day after that because she missed her old smoothie blender. Within 4 days she was cooking meals in the kitchen like nothing had happened. Left her almond flour and chia seeds spread across the counter. Told my mom not to use her pan because it was seasoned for plant-based meals only. She wasn't living there. Not officially. But she was back. Creeping in around the edges, pretending she was welcome without actually asking if she was. Ryan came with her on the 5th day. He told my dad he just needed to use the Wi-Fi because the connection at their new place was unstable. Then he stayed for dinner. Then he was back the next morning for a Zoom meeting, only this time with a mic and lighting rig and a Red Bull pyramid stacked on the table. He left behind a tripod and claimed the dining room as his recording zone. The worst part, my parents said nothing. They let it happen. Until one night my mom called me after dinner. She sounded breathless like she'd just run up the stairs, only she hadn't. She said, "Karen, I think we made a mistake. A big one." Lindsay had told her she might be pregnant again. That she needed a stable place. That my parents owed it to her, after everything she'd been through. My mom asked for a test. Lindsay said asking was offensive. He started crying. Ryan called them emotionally unsafe. Then Ryan took the car again. Didn't return it for 2 days. When he brought it back, it had a cracked taillight and smelled like weed. My dad asked about it. Ryan said, "You can't prove anything." That was the end of my dad's patience. My mom said he stormed out of the house and didn't come back until after midnight. The next morning she called me again. This time her voice was smaller. She said, "Can you come talk to them? Not help. Not mediate. Not convince." Which was code for, "Do what we can't." I said I'd come by the next day. But I already knew what I was going to do. This wasn't about talking anymore. This was about ending it. For good. I drove to their house early, hoping to catch Ryan still asleep. I parked across the street and took a deep breath before going in. It felt familiar. The same dread I used to feel before walking into my own kitchen when they were still living with me. That feeling like you had to brace yourself in your own home. Lindsay was already there on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Ryan was in the dining room with a mic clipped to his hoodie and his laptop open. My parents were nowhere in sight. I said one sentence. "You're leaving today." Lindsay didn't look up. Ryan asked if I had any legal standing to say that. I told him, "I don't need legal standing. I have keys and I have parents who finally hit their limit." He laughed. Said, "You're just jealous. You always have been." Then he added, "We're building something real and you're threatened by it." I walked to the Wi-Fi router and unplugged it. He got up like he was going to block me. I didn't flinch. That's when my mom came down the stairs. Fully. No makeup. Hair not done. Just looked tired. She said clearly, "You two need to leave. Today." Lindsay started crying. Said she had nowhere to go. Then she turned to me and said, "You win." But I didn't feel like I'd won. Not even a little. Because this wasn't a game. It was a slow, grinding collapse that had taken over 2 homes and nearly crushed the people who gave her everything. They left that afternoon. Quiet this time. No final word. No guilt trip. No tantrum. But after they drove away, my mom found something tucked into her nightstand. A note. It said, "Don't worry. We'll be back when you're ready to say sorry." Like it was a gift. Like this was all our fault. I told her to keep it. So she'd never forget who Lindsay really was. They didn't go far. After they left my parents' house, they checked into a motel on the edge of town. The kind with weekly rates and a sign out front that just says, "Vacancy" in flickering red. I know this because Ryan posted a photo of it on Instagram with the caption, "Starting from zero. Watch us." Lindsay rebranded her social media too. All her stories were now about being humbled and embracing discomfort. She made a post about how people only love you when you're useful and how blood isn't thicker than trauma. A photo of a motel curtain with sunlight coming through. #healing. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because 2 weeks later my parents started getting texts again. Not from Lindsay, from Ryan, asking if they could come by just for a couple of showers a week. That they'd be out of their hair in no time. That they just needed a place to regroup. My dad blocked him. My mom didn't. She kept reading the messages out loud to me over the phone. I could hear it, the old pull starting again. That part of her that couldn't stand to see Lindsay fall. But she didn't cave. Not yet. Until last week. My mom called and said, "They're coming for dinner." I just said, "Why?" She said it was just one meal. Just to check in. Just to make sure they were okay. And that's when I snapped. I got in my car, drove to their house before the dinner started and walked straight into the kitchen. Lindsay and Ryan were already there. Ryan was rifling through the fridge. Lindsay was sitting at the counter with a glass of wine like nothing had ever happened. Like she hadn't nearly drowned my hallway. Like she hadn't lied about being pregnant or stolen the wedding album or taken over my parents' house like it was some kind of entitled mission trip. They looked up at me like I was a guest. And I said calmly without raising my voice, "You two are losers." Lindsay froze. Ryan said, "Excuse me?" I repeated it. "You're losers. Not victims. Not dreamers. Not misunderstood creatives. Just two grown adults who live off other people because you're too afraid to admit you have nothing to offer." My mom whispered my name. My dad didn't say anything. Ryan started talking some nonsense about how I didn't understand what they were building. I cut him off. "You've been building the same fake story for years. And now you're both alone, broke and couch hopping because nobody wants to play along anymore." Lindsay stood up furious. She asked how I could talk to family that way. And I said, "You're not family. Not the kind that matters." Then I looked at my parents. "This ends tonight." They didn't argue. The next morning Lindsay and Ryan were gone. This time for real. No notes. No parting gifts. No middle fingers made of granola. Just gone. They stopped posting. Stopped reaching out. Word got around a few weeks later that they were living in a tiny studio an hour away, renting it month to month from some old college friend of Ryan's. No more Instagram stories. No more quotes about transformation. Just silence. My mom still flinches when she gets an unexpected call. My dad went back to playing music in the evenings, something he hadn't done in months. Me. I sleep better. I eat better. I walk through my house and don't have to check the fridge for passive-aggressive notes. I don't feel triumphant. I just feel clean. Like something toxic finally drained out of our family. Maybe one day Lindsay will figure it out. But I'm not waiting around. That part of my life is over.